Captain Jake Morrison stood in the war room at Luna Base, staring at the holographic display. The alien fleet was gone, but the strange contacts from deep space were getting closer. Admiral Brooks pointed at the screen with his laser pointer. "Jake, we need answers. Those aliens ran like their lives depended on it. What did they tell you about the silence?" Jake thought back to his conversation with Kethver. They said it was a dead zone where civilizations disappear. They seemed more afraid of what was coming from there than they were of our Deathworld. Dr. Lisa Grant entered the room carrying a stack of files. She had been working for 3 days straight, barely stopping to eat or sleep. "Admiral, I've been reviewing everything the aliens told us about Earth being a death world. I think we need to look at our own planet with new eyes." She pulled up Earth's geological record on the main screen. "Look at this pattern. Every 65 million years, something happens that forces rapid evolution. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, the ice, ages, supervolcano eruptions. It's like something keeps hitting the reset button on life." Colonel Ryan Parker walked into the room. He had just returned from a deep space patrol mission. "Admiral, you need to see what we found out there." Ryan pulled up images from his ship's cameras. The photos showed structures floating in empty space. They were clearly artificial, but they looked older than anything humans had ever built. "These things are huge," Ryan said. "Some of them are the size of cities. And they're all pointed toward Earth." Dr. Grant studied the images. "How old are they?" "Our carbon dating equipment doesn't work on whatever material they're made from. But the way space dust has accumulated on them suggests they've been there for millions of years." Admiral Brooks leaned forward. "Millions of years? Who could have built them?" Jake was studying the positioning of the structures. "Admiral, look at how they're arranged. They form a perfect sphere around our solar system. It's like they're watching us." Dr. Grant was running calculations on her tablet. If these have been there for millions of years, they would have been watching Earth. Through all the major extinction events, they would have seen the rise and fall of the dinosaurs, the ice ages, everything. That's when the emergency alert sounded. Lieutenant Karen Walsh's voice came over the intercom. "All senior staff to the communication center. We're receiving a transmission from Earth." They ran to the communication center to find chaos. Screens showed reports coming in from all over Earth. Animals were behaving strangely worldwide. Migration patterns that had been stable for thousands of years were changing overnight. Dr. Amanda White appeared on the main screen via video link. From her research station in the Pacific Ocean, she was a marine biologist who studied the deepest parts of Earth's oceans. "Admiral Brooks, we've got a situation down here. The deep ocean sensors are picking up massive movement in the Mariana Trench. Things that should be geologically stable are moving." "What kind of movement?" Dr. Grant asked. "It looks like structures are rising from the ocean floor. Big ones, and Admiral, they're not natural." The video feed switched to underwater cameras. The images were dark and hard to make out, but there were definitely artificial structures rising from the deepest parts of the ocean. They looked similar to the space structures Colonel Parker had found, but these were integrated into Earth's geology. "How long have those been down there?" Jake asked. Dr. White checked her instruments. "Based on the sediment layers, these have been part of the ocean floor for at least 2 million years, but they're activating now." Admiral Brooks was getting reports from stations all over Earth. "We've got similar activity at other deep ocean sites. The Puerto Rico Trench, the Peru-Chile Trench, whatever's happening, it's global." Dr. Grant was working furiously on her computer. "I'm cross-referencing the locations of these underwater structures with geological data. Admiral, they're positioned at the most tectonically active points on Earth. They're built into the planet's foundation." Colonel Parker pulled up a star chart, and the space structures are positioned to watch all of this activity. Jake was putting pieces together. "So we have ancient watchers in space and ancient machinery built into Earth itself? And both are activating now, just as something approaches from the silence." The main screen flickered and suddenly showed a new image. It was the surface of one of the space structures, but now it was glowing with blue energy. As they watched, the ancient machinery was coming to life. Dr. Grant's tablet beeped with an incoming data stream. Admiral, I'm receiving signals from the underwater structures. They're sending data to the space platforms. What kind of data? Admiral Brooks asked. Biological readings. They're scanning every living thing on Earth. Plants, animals, humans. It's like they're taking inventory. Lieutenant Walsh called out. From her station. Admiral, the approaching objects from deep space just changed course. They're heading directly for Earth now. Jake looked at the tactical display. How long until they arrive? At current speed, 18 hours. Admiral Brooks activated the global communication system. This is Admiral Brooks to all Earth defense. Forces, code red alert, all units to battle stations. This is not a drill. As alarms sounded around the world, Dr. Grant made a discovery that changed everything. She was analyzing the data coming from the underwater structures when she found something impossible. Admiral, these machines aren't just scanning current life on Earth. They're comparing it to genetic templates that are millions of years old. Templates for what? Jake asked. For us, for humans. Admiral, these machines have genetic patterns. For human beings from before humans existed. The room went quiet. Everyone stared at Dr. Grant. That's impossible, Colonel Parker said. Humans have only existed for a few 100,000 years. Dr. Grant shook her head. That's what we thought. But these machines have human genetic data that's over 2 million years old. It's like someone designed us before we evolved. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Designed us for what? Before anyone could answer, the space structures began. Transmitting directly to Earth, the signals were coming through on every frequency at once. Lieutenant Walsh tried to decode them. It's not language, she said. It's pure information. Genetic codes, biological specifications, weapon designs? Weapon designs? Admiral Brooks asked. Admiral, according to this data, human beings are weapons. Our reflexes, our endurance, our ability to adapt and survive, it's all been engineered. Dr. White's voice came through from the ocean station. Admiral, the underwater structures are releasing something into the water. It looks like nano-machines, but they're biological. What are they doing? Dr. Grant asked. They're entering the food chain. Fish are eating them, and the nano-machines are spreading through every living thing in the ocean. Within hours, reports came in from around the world. The biological nanomachines were spreading through the entire ecosystem. Plants were absorbing them through their roots. Animals were breathing them in. Humans were ingesting them through food. And water. But instead of making people sick, the nanomachines seemed to be making them stronger. Emergency rooms reported that people were healing faster from injuries. Athletes were breaking records they set just days before. Children were showing reflexes that should have been impossible. Jake felt it himself. His vision was sharper, his reactions faster. When he picked up a coffee cup, he had to be careful not to crush it with his newfound strength. Dr. Grant was studying blood samples from humans who had been exposed to the nanomachines. Admiral, these aren't making us sick. They're activating dormant genetic sequences. DNA patterns that were already in our cells but switched off. Switched off by who? Admiral Brooks asked. Before she could answer, the deep space contacts finally became visible on normal sensors. What they saw made everyone in the room stop breathing. The objects weren't ships. They were tears in space itself. Dark wounds in reality that seemed to hurt to look at directly. And they were getting bigger. Colonel Parker was studying the sensor readings. Admiral, these things aren't showing up as solid matter. It's like they exist and don't exist at the same time? Jake was watching the tactical display when something impossible happened. One of the reality tiers moved in a way that defied physics. It shifted position without traveling through the space between its old location and new location. Admiral, Lieutenant Walsh called out, I'm receiving a transmission from the space structures. It's different from before. This one's in English. The message played through the speakers. The voice was artificial but somehow familiar. Children of Earth, the time of preparation is over. You have been shaped by millions of years of challenge and struggle. Your world has been hard so that you would become strong. Your species has been guided so that you would become guardians. The devourers have found the way through. The war for existence itself begins now. Dr. Grant looked around the room at her colleagues. Guardians of what? The artificial voice answered as if it had heard her question. Guardians of reality. Protectors of existence, defenders against that which should not be. Jake stared at the approaching reality tears. And those things out there, the devourers, they consume not just matter and energy, but the very concept of existence. Where they pass, things do not just die, they never were. Admiral Brooks activated the Global Defense Network. All Earth forces. The silver ship appeared on radar screens across Earth at exactly 14:23, Greenwich Mean Time. Captain Jake Morrison was drinking coffee in the command center of Luna Base when the alert came through. The ship was big, maybe 2 kilometers long, and it was moving at speeds that should have been impossible. "Sir, we're getting a signal," said Lieutenant Karen Walsh from the communications desk. "It's coming through on multiple frequencies. They're trying to talk." Jake set down his coffee cup and walked to the main screen. The message was playing in what sounded like a dozen different languages, but somehow his brain understood every word. Greetings to the people of the third planet. We are the Galactic Council. We come in peace to welcome you to the greater community of worlds. Jake looked at his crew. Nobody spoke for a moment. They had trained for this day, but training was different from reality. "Get me Admiral Brooks," Jake said. "And prep the interceptor squadron. I don't care if they say they come in peace. Nobody gets close to Earth without an escort." 20 minutes. Later, Jake was flying his fighter alongside the alien ship. The thing was massive up close, with strange blue lights running along its hull. His radio crackled with voices from the other pilots in his squadron. "Control, this is Morrison. The alien ship is responding to our escort formation. They're following our flight path." "Copy that, Morrison. Bring them to landing zone Alpha in Colorado. And Jake, be careful." The alien ship landed in a field surrounded by mountains. Jake watched from his cockpit as a ramp lowered and beings walked out. They were tall and thin, with blue skin and 4 arms. They wore what looked like spacesuits, even though Earth's atmosphere should have been fine for most carbon-based life. Dr. Lisa Grant was waiting for them with a team of scientists and soldiers. She had been studying alien life forms her whole career, even though none had ever been found. Now she was face to face with real aliens, and they looked scared. The lead alien approached slowly. When it spoke, its voice came through a translator device that hung around its neck. "I am Ambassador HFY of the Altarian Republic. We represent the Galactic Council of Worlds. Welcome to Earth," Dr. Grant said. "I'm Dr. Lisa Grant. We're honored to meet you." HFY looked around at the mountains and sky. Even through his helmet, his fear was obvious. "Dr. Grant, we must discuss your planet's classification immediately. Our sensors indicate extreme environmental hazards." Dr. Grant looked confused. "Hazards? This is one of our safest zones." "Safe?" Another alien stepped forward. This one introduced himself as Science Officer Veltar. "Your atmospheric oxygen content is toxic to most species. Your gravity is nearly twice standard. And our scans show the presence of apex predators within a few kilometers." "You mean the bears?" Dr. Grant asked. "They won't bother us unless we bother them." The aliens looked at each other in what Jake thought might be panic. HFY spoke. "Again, bears? Large predatory mammals roam freely near your population centers?" "Well, yes, we share the planet with them." Veltar was running scans with a handheld device. "Ambassador, the radiation levels here are borderline lethal. And according to my readings, the local plant life produces multiple neurotoxins." Dr. Grant picked up a handful of berries from a nearby bush and ate them. The aliens jumped back. "These are just blueberries. They're good for you." For 3 days, Dr. Grant led the alien delegation around the safe zone. The aliens were amazed and horrified by everything they saw. Children played soccer in the rain while lightning flashed overhead. Hikers climbed mountains that would crush most galactic species under their own weight. Farmers worked in fields under UV radiation that would cause immediate cancer and Altarian physiology. On the second day, they visited a local school. The aliens watched human children through the windows, too afraid to go inside. "How old are these young ones?" Kethver asked. "About 8 years old," Dr. Grant replied. "And they survive in this environment without protective gear?" "They're kids. They're tougher than they look." Veltar was taking readings again. "Ambassador, these juvenile humans are operating at oxygen levels that would cause organ failure in adult Altarians within minutes." That evening, Jake joined Dr. Grant and the aliens for dinner. The aliens couldn't eat human food, so they consumed nutrition pills while watching humans eat what their scanners classified as biological warfare agents. "Dr. Grant," Kethver said, "your species has accomplished something remarkable. You have achieved spaceflight despite evolving on what we classify as a Class 12 Deathworld." "Deathworld?" Jake asked. "A planet so hostile that intelligent life should not be able to develop. Your world ranks among the most dangerous we have ever studied." Dr. Grant put down her fork. "More dangerous than other planets with life?" "Dr. Grant, most habitable worlds are calm. Stable weather, gentle gravity, peaceful ecosystems. Your planet has ice ages, supervolcanoes, asteroid impacts, and predators that actively hunt thinking beings." "That's just nature," Jake said. "No," Veltar said quietly, "that is warfare. Your entire planet appears designed to create warriors." On the third day, Dr. Grant took the aliens to observe a thunderstorm from a safe distance. The aliens watched in terror as humans jogged past them in the rain, completely unbothered by lightning strikes that lit up the sky. "Your people treat this extreme weather as normal?" Kethver asked. "It's just a storm. Good running weather, actually. The air smells clean after lightning." That's when the long-range sensors picked up the signal. Jake's radio crackled with urgent messages from orbit, control to all units. "We have unknown contacts approaching from beyond the solar system. Multiple objects, moving fast." Kethver went rigid. His translator was picking up radio chatter from the alien ships in orbit, and Jake could hear panic in the alien voices even, without understanding the words. "We must leave," Kethver said suddenly. "All ships, immediate evacuation." "What's wrong?" Dr. Grant asked. "The silence," Veltar whispered. "Something is coming from the silence." The aliens were running now, back, toward their ship. Jake followed them. "What's the silence?" he called out. Kethver turned at the base of his ship's ramp. "The dead zone beyond your star system, where civilizations go to disappear forever. We thought it was empty, but something lives there, something that should not exist." "Then why?" "Are you running?" Jake asked. "Because we are not warriors, Captain Morrison. We are explorers and diplomats, but you—" Kethver looked back at the humans who were already organizing defense positions while storm clouds gathered overhead. "You are what this galaxy has been waiting for." The alien ships launched quickly, leaving Earth's atmosphere within minutes. Jake stood in the field with Dr. Grant, watching the silver ships disappear into space. "Lisa," Jake said, "what do you think he meant about Earth being designed to create warriors?" Dr. Grant looked up at the storm clouds. Lightning was getting closer, but neither of them moved to take cover. "I don't know, Jake, but I'm starting to think we need to find out." The radio in Jake's fighter crackled again. "Morrison, this is Admiral Brooks. Get back to base immediately. Long-range sensors are picking up massive objects approaching from interstellar space. And Jake, they're not showing up on normal scans. Only our deep space arrays can detect them." As Jake and Dr. Grant ran for the fighter, the storm broke overhead. Rain poured down and lightning struck the ground around them, but they kept running. Behind them, animals in the forest were making sounds they had never heard before. Deep, warning calls that seemed to come from some ancient instinct. High above Earth, the first reality tiers began to form in empty space. They were small, barely visible, but they were growing. And through them, something that existed beyond. Existence was beginning to reach into normal reality. The war for everything that had ever existed was about to begin. And Earth, the Deathworld that had spent millions of years preparing its children for this moment, was ready. The Theta incident started with what should have been a routine science mission. The Zilani research ship Quantum Pioneer entered the Theta Nebula to study its strange energy patterns. The nebula was beautiful, filled with swirling clouds of gas that glowed in colors that had no names. It was also disputed territory that 3 different species claimed as their own. Dr. Yultan, the lead researcher aboard the Quantum Pioneer, had no interest in politics. She was a scientist who wanted to understand how the nebula's unique properties could advance Zilani technology. The nebula contained rare elements that could improve their quantum computers and energy systems. What Dr. Yultan did not know was that Vakari War Prime Zexan had declared the same area a weapons testing zone. His fleet was conducting experiments with new plasma cannons designed to destroy human ships. The weapons had never been used because the war ended before they were ready. The 2 groups discovered each other when the Quantum Pioneer sensors detected massive energy signatures coming from the nebula's core. At the same time, the Vakari testing fleet picked up the Zilani ship on their scopes. Lieutenant Commander Ben Fisher was monitoring communications from the human listening post at Gamma Relay when the first messages started coming through. He had become an expert at reading the tension levels in alien communications over the past few months. "This is different," he told his commanding officer as he translated the intercepted signals. "This is not another trade dispute or territorial argument. This sounds like a real confrontation." The Vakari commander, Sub-War Prime Kilvac, hailed the Zilani ship with barely controlled anger. "Zilani vessel, you are in restricted Vakari space. Leave immediately or face the consequences." Dr. Yultan responded with the cold logic that characterized her species. "This nebula is not claimed by any single species under the Galactic Survey. Treaty of 2387. Our research mission has legal priority." "That treaty was suspended during the war," Kilvac growled back. "Vakari forces claim this space by right of conquest." "The war is over," Dr. Yultan replied. "Your conquest claims have no legal standing." Lieutenant Commander Fisher felt his stomach tighten as he listened to the exchange. The tone was escalating fast. Both sides were using phrases that, in their cultures, were just short of direct threats. "I need to report this immediately," Fisher told his officer. "This is about to get very bad?" But events were moving too fast for reports. War Prime Zexan himself took over communications from the Vakari flagship. His voice carried the authority of someone who had never backed down from a fight. "Zilani ship, you have 30 seconds to begin departure maneuvers or we will consider you a hostile force." Dr. Yultan's response was delivered in the same calm tone she used for scientific observations. "Vakari Commander, any attack on a civilian research vessel will be considered an act of war against the Zilani Republic." Neither side was bluffing. The Vakari had spent months preparing for conflicts that never came. Their weapons were ready. Their crews were trained, and their commander was frustrated by months of inaction. The Zilani had grown arrogant from years of technological superiority. They believed their advanced shields and weapons made them untouchable. At exactly 14 minutes and 37 seconds after first contact, War Prime Zexan gave the order to fire the Vakari plasma cannons, designed to punch through human armor, tore through the Quantum Pioneer's shields like they were made of paper. The Zilani ship's quantum barriers, which had never failed against any known weapon, collapsed in seconds. Dr. Yultan had just enough time to activate her ship's emergency beacon before the second salvo destroyed the bridge. Her last transmission was a single word in Zilani: treachery. But the Quantum Pioneer was not defenseless. As it died, its automated systems launched a spread of quantum torpedoes. The weapons were experimental, designed to disrupt enemy electronics rather than destroy ships. Against Vakari technology, they worked better than expected. The Vakari flagship's power systems failed catastrophically. Without power for life support or artificial gravity, the ship became a tomb. War Prime Zexan and his entire crew died. In the cold vacuum of space. The entire incident lasted 14 minutes. When it was over, both ships were destroyed and 47 beings were dead. Captain Susan Davis of the intelligence ship Nightingale was the first human to reach the battle site. Her ship was equipped with the best sensors Earth had ever built, designed to analyze alien technology and tactics. What she found in the Theta Nebula was the wreckage of two civilizations' dreams. Both ships are completely destroyed, she reported to Earth. No survivors. The debris pattern suggests they fired on each other at point-blank range. The news reached the Coalition homeworlds within hours. The response was immediate and catastrophic. On the Vakari homeworld, War Prime Zenthek received the report while meeting with his military council. The death of Zexon, his most trusted subordinate, filled him with rage that made his previous anger look mild. The Zelani have murdered a War Prime, he announced to his assembled commanders. This is an act of war. We will respond with total force. The Zelani High Council's reaction was equally swift and angry. Council leader Vizik's optical sensors flashed in patterns that indicated extreme agitation. The Vakari have destroyed a civilian research vessel, it declared to the emergency session. This unprovoked attack demands immediate retaliation. Within 6 hours, both species were mobilizing their fleets. The ships that had been built to fight humans were now preparing to fight each other. The Threx Consortium called an emergency meeting of their trade council. The destruction in the Theta Nebula threatened their shipping routes and endangered their mining operations in nearby systems. This conflict will cost us billions in lost trade, declared Trade Minister Vexal. We must protect our interests. The Threx solution was typically mercantile. They hired private security fleets and declared several star systems to be neutral trade zones under their protection. The ships they hired were heavily armed and had no interest in diplomatic solutions. The Orlani Federation faced a different crisis. Their entire political system was based on maintaining balance between the other species. With two of their major allies at war, their influence was collapsing. We must choose sides, argued Ambassador Kalana at the Emergency Council meeting. Neutrality will leave us powerless. Choosing sides will make us enemies of the other side, countered Ambassador Yexal. We must find a third option. But there was no third option. The galaxy's diplomatic system was built on the assumption that rational beings would prefer negotiation to war. The Theta incident had shattered that assumption. Governor Mike Sullivan of New Detroit watched the crisis unfold from his frontier world. His planet was directly in the path of the mobilizing fleets. Vakari battle groups passed through his system on their way to Zelani space. Threx security forces demanded docking rights for temporary defensive purposes. They are not preparing for a limited conflict, he reported to Earth. These are full military mobilizations. They are preparing for total war. President Robert Chun called an emergency meeting of Earth's leadership. The situation had moved far beyond anything they had planned for. How did asking for nothing lead to this? Asked Defense Secretary Nancy Price. Dr. Alex Morgan, who had predicted the coalition's collapse, looked tired and old. We removed the external threat that held them together. Without that common enemy, their natural conflicts took over. The military buildup they created to fight us gave them the tools to fight each other. What do we do now? The president asked. Nothing, Dr. Morgan replied. If we try to intervene, we become the external threat again, and they will unite against us. We have to let this play out. Even if it destroys the galaxy? Dr. Morgan nodded slowly. Even then, because the alternative is becoming the thing they all fear again. From the human listening posts scattered across neutral space, intelligence officers watched the galaxy prepare for war. The communications they intercepted painted a picture of civilizations choosing conflict over compromise. Revenge over reason. Lieutenant Commander Fisher, who had witnessed the first moments of the crisis, sent his final report before evacuating. Gamma Relay Station. The coalition species are using the ships they built to fight us to fight each other. They have forgotten how to solve problems without violence. The galaxy is about to tear itself apart, and the saddest part is that none of this had to happen. As human ships and stations withdrew from the conflict zones, Earth's leaders faced a terrible irony. By asking for nothing, they had gotten everything they wanted, a galaxy too busy fighting itself to threaten humanity. But the price was higher than anyone had imagined. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath as four civilizations prepared to destroy each other with weapons designed to destroy humanity. Jake woke up feeling like someone had dropped a building on him. Every muscle in his body ached, and his head felt like it weighed 100 pounds. He tried to sit up and immediately fell back down. Something was very wrong. The room around him was small and made of dark metal. There were no windows, just a door with what looked like an energy field blocking it. A dim light came from panels in the ceiling. Everything about the place felt heavy and oppressive. Jake tried to stand up again, moving slowly this time. His body felt strange, like he was wearing a heavy suit of armor. Each step took effort, and his balance was off. It took him a moment to realize what was happening. The gravity in this room was much stronger than normal. On Earth, Jake had weighed about 180 pounds. In this room, he felt like he weighed at least 360 pounds. "You are awake," a voice said from somewhere in the walls. The words were in English, but the accent was strange and harsh. "Welcome to Gravitas Prime Maximum Security Facility." A section of the wall slid away, and a Zephyrian walked into the room. This one was different from the soldiers who had captured Jake. It wore what looked like a uniform with symbols on it, and its crystal skin was a darker blue color. "I am Warden Krelanoth," the alien said. "You are now my prisoner." Jake managed to stay standing, though it took all his strength. "What do you want from me?" The warden walked in a circle around Jake, studying him like he was an interesting bug. "Information. Your species has been expanding into space for several decades now. We want to know about your military capabilities, your technology, your weaknesses." "I am just a mining engineer," Jake said. "I do not know anything about military stuff." Krelanoth made a sound that might have been laughter. "Perhaps, but you will have time to remember things you might have forgotten. This facility is designed to help prisoners recall information they thought they did not have." The warden gestured around the room. "The gravity in this cell is currently set to 2.1 times your homeworld standard. For most species, this level of gravitational stress causes immediate physical breakdown. Bones begin to fracture, organs start to fail. The mind becomes focused only on the pain." Jake said nothing, but he was already doing calculations in his head. Double gravity meant everything weighed twice as much, including his own body. It was like trying to function while carrying another person on his back. "Every day you refuse. To cooperate, we increase the gravity by 0.2 units, Krelanoth continued. "Most aliens break within 3 days. Their bodies simply cannot handle the stress. But humans are from a low-gravity world, are they not? This should be especially difficult for you." The warden waited for Jake to respond, but Jake just stared at him. "Nothing to say? Well, you will change your mind soon enough. Food and water will be provided. Waste facilities are through that door. Try not to hurt yourself too badly. We want you conscious for questioning." Krelanoth left the room, and Jake was alone. Jake looked around his cell more carefully. It was about 12 feet by 12 feet, with a small bathroom area and a shelf that folded down from the wall. There was a drain in the floor and vents in the ceiling. Everything was built for function, not comfort. The gravity was definitely a problem, but maybe not as big a problem as the aliens thought. Jake had spent years doing construction work, often while wearing heavy tool belts and safety gear. He had worked on high-rise buildings where the wind tried to push him around, and in deep excavations where every step was an effort, he started with simple movements. Walking from one side of the cell to the other, bending down to touch the floor, reaching up to touch the ceiling. Everything was harder than normal, but not impossible. After an hour of moving around, Jake realized something important. His body was already starting to adapt. The aching in his muscles was becoming a familiar burn, like the feeling after a good workout. Jake smiled for the first time since being captured. These aliens had no idea what humans were capable of. The next morning, a slot opened in the door and a tray of food slid through. The food looked like gray paste, but it smelled okay and Jake was hungry. He ate sitting on the floor, which was easier than trying to balance on the fold-down shelf. As he ate, Jake started doing simple exercises. Push-ups first, though they were much harder than usual. Then sit-ups, then squats. His body protested at first, but he pushed through the discomfort. By the afternoon, Jake was doing a full workout routine. The guards who watched him through cameras must have thought he was crazy, but Jake knew what he was doing. His father had been a physical trainer in the military, and he had taught Jake that the human body could adapt to almost anything if you pushed it gradually and consistently. "You look comfortable," came Krellineth's voice from the wall speakers. "Just staying in shape," Jake replied, not stopping his push-ups. "The gravity is now at 2.3 times your world standard. You should be in agony." Jake paused his exercise and looked up at the camera he knew was watching him. "Back home, we call this a warm-up." It was not entirely true. The gravity was definitely challenging, and Jake could feel the strain on his body. But he had worked construction jobs where he carried 90-pound bags of concrete up flights of stairs all day. He had done roofing work in the summer heat while wearing 40 pounds of safety equipment. This was hard, but it was not impossible. "Interesting," the warden said. "Let us see how you feel tomorrow." The next day, the gravity increased again. Jake could feel the difference immediately when he woke up. Getting out of bed was like trying to stand up while someone sat on his shoulders. But he managed it, and he started his morning exercises. More guards came to watch him now. Jake could see them through the energy field, standing in the corridor and pointing at him. They seemed confused by what they were seeing. Jake decided to give them a show. He stood up and walked to the center of the room. Then he dropped down and did 50 push-ups without stopping. When he finished, he looked directly at the camera and grinned. "Is that all you have got?" he said. That got a reaction. Within an hour, Warden Krellineth was back in his cell, along with another Zephyrian that carried what looked like medical equipment. "Scan him," Krellineth ordered. The medical officer ran a device over Jake's body, frowning at the readouts. "Sir?" "This is very strange. His bone density is actually increasing. His muscle mass is growing. According to these readings, the gravitational stress is making him stronger, not weaker." Krellineth stared at Jake with those glowing yellow eyes. "How is this possible?" Jake shrugged, which was harder to do casually under the increased gravity. "Humans are tough. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day for millions of years. Ice ages, volcanoes, earthquakes, predators, diseases. Everything on Earth wanted us dead, but we survived. A little extra gravity is not going to break us. Your planet has a gravity of only one standard unit," the warden said. "You are weak compared to most species." "Maybe we are not as strong as you," Jake agreed. "But we are stubborn. When something tries to crush us, we learn to push back harder." The medical officer whispered something to Krellineth in their own language. The warden's expression grew more angry. "The gravity will continue to increase," Krellineth said. "Eventually you will break. Every species has a limit." "Maybe," Jake said, "but you are going to have to work for it." After they left, Jake continued his exercises. He was starting to feel more confident about his situation. The aliens thought they could torture him into giving up information he did not have. But Jake had been through tough times before. He remembered working construction during the recession, when jobs were hard to find and money was tight. He remembered the 6 months after his mother died when everything seemed hopeless. He remembered the training exercises his father had put him through as a kid, teaching him that the mind was stronger than the body if you knew how to use it. Those experiences had taught Jake something important. Pain was temporary, but giving up lasted forever. As the days passed, the gravity kept increasing. 2.5, 2.7, 2.9. Each increase made life harder, but Jake adapted. He modified his exercises to work with the higher gravity. He learned to move efficiently to conserve energy. He found ways to make the increased weight work for him instead of against him. Other prisoners in nearby cells started paying attention. Jake could hear them talking sometimes, speaking in languages he did not understand. But he could tell they were talking about him. The human who would not break. On the seventh day, when the gravity reached 3.1 times Earth normal, Jake made a decision. He was going to send a message to his captors, one they would not forget. He positioned himself in the center of the cell, directly under the main camera. Then he began the most challenging workout of his life. Push-ups, sit-ups, jumping jacks, and squat thrusts. Everything his father had taught him about pushing through pain and exhaustion. By the time he finished an hour later, he was covered in sweat and breathing hard. But he was still standing. He looked up at the camera and smiled. "Thanks for the challenge," Jake said. "This is actually helping me get in better shape. You should open a gym." The silence that followed told Jake everything he needed to know. The aliens were starting to realize they had made a mistake. They thought of several cities had been erased from existence. Millions of people had fought against 6 months after the Devourer War. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the new Earth Defense Station orbiting high above the planet. The station existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously, allowing human defenders to monitor threats that most species couldn't even perceive. Below him, Earth looked the same as it always had, green and blue and beautiful, but Jake knew better now. The storms gathering over the Atlantic weren't just weather patterns. They were reality storms strengthening the barriers between dimensions. The earthquakes along the Pacific Ring of Fire weren't just geological activity. They were Earth's ancient systems calibrating themselves for the next threat. "Admiral Morrison," came a voice from behind him. Jake turned to see Ambassador Kethver of the Altarian Republic. The alien diplomat had returned to Earth with a formal request from the Galactic Council. "Ambassador," Jake nodded. "I wasn't expecting you back so soon." Kethver approached the observation window carefully. Even after witnessing humanity's victory over the Devourers, he was still afraid of Earth's environment. "Admiral, the Council has voted unanimously. We formally request that Earth become the primary defense coordinator for transdimensional threats throughout the galaxy." Jake looked down at his home planet. "That means Earth stays a death world." "Yes, the Council understands now that your harsh world serves a purpose. We are prepared to offer significant resources to support your continued development as Guardians." Dr. Lisa Grant entered the observation deck carrying a data tablet. She had been promoted to Director of Xenobiological Defense after her work during the Devourer War. "Admiral, the Shepherds want to meet with you." Jake followed Dr. Grant to the communication chamber. The Shepherds appeared as beings of pure energy, their forms shifting between states of existence. "Admiral Morrison," their voice spoke directly into his mind, "you have proven that humanity can stand against the impossible. But now you face a choice that your ancestors faced millions of years ago. What choice?" "We can restore Earth to a normal world. Peaceful gravity, stable weather, harmless wildlife. Your people could live in comfort and safety." Jake thought about what that would mean. No more hurricanes that taught humans to endure chaos. No more predators that kept humans alert and strong. No more harsh environment that forged warriors capable of fighting reality-destroying entities. "And if we choose that," Jake asked, "then other species must be found and shaped to become guardians. The process would take millions of years, and during that time, reality would be vulnerable." Dr. Grant stepped forward. "What if we refuse? Then Earth remains as it is. Dangerous, challenging, constantly testing its inhabitants, but capable of producing defenders that can stand against any threat from beyond existence." Jake thought about the people of Earth, the construction workers who had refused to let their city be erased. The pilots who flew impossible missions because they were too stubborn to crash. The scientists who made paradox weapons work through pure determination. "The people should decide for themselves," Jake said. The vote took place over the next month. Every human on Earth and in the colonies was asked the same question. Should Earth become a safe, normal world, or remain a dangerous training ground for guardians of reality? The results surprised no one who understood humanity. 87% voted to remain guardians. They chose danger over safety, duty over comfort. Colonel Ryan Parker was now General Parker, commanding the Reality Defense Corps. He stood in the main briefing room addressing new recruits from dozens of worlds. "Welcome to Guardian training," Ryan told the mixed group of humans and aliens. "You volunteered to become defenders of existence itself. The training will be harder than anything you've experienced." The alien recruits looked nervous. They came from peaceful worlds where the greatest danger was mild weather. But they had volunteered to be enhanced and trained by Earth's Deathworld veterans. "First lesson," Ryan continued, "is survival training in the Australian outback. You'll learn to maintain mental coherence while fighting creatures that exist in multiple realities simultaneously." A young Altarian raised his hand. "General, will we become like humans?" "No," Ryan said. "You'll become like yourselves, but stronger. Earth doesn't change who you are. It reveals who you can become when you refuse to give up." Dr. Nathan Cross had established the archaeological corps, teams that searched for evidence of other ancient Guardian civilizations throughout the galaxy. His latest discovery was on a planet in the Vega system. "Dr. Grant," Nathan's voice came through the communication. "System, we found another Guardian world. This one was destroyed about 50,000 years ago." Lisa was studying the data from Nathan's dig. "What destroyed it?" "Something called the Silence Makers. According to the records we found, they're entities that exist in the spaces between thoughts. They consume consciousness itself." Lisa felt a chill. "Are they related to the Devourers?" "The records suggest they're much worse. The Devourers consume existence. The Silence Makers consume the ability to think about existence." Admiral Morrison was in a meeting with the Galactic Council when the report came in. The Council representatives who had once feared Earth's harsh environment were now grateful for it. "Admiral," Council Speaker Zandai said, "our deep space monitors have detected new activity in the void regions. Something is responding to Earth's victory over the Devourers." Jake studied the sensor readings. "How many new threats are we looking at?" "Unknown. Our instruments can detect at least 12 different types of impossible entities. Some consume matter, others consume energy, and still others consume concepts we don't have names for." Jake looked around the council chamber at representatives from hundreds of peaceful worlds. "And you want Earth to stand against all of them? We're not asking you to fight alone. Every world in the council is prepared to support Earth's Guardian program, but Admiral, only Deathworld inhabitants can actually engage these entities in combat." Dr. Grant had been working with enhanced humans to develop new fighting techniques. The gym where she conducted her research looked like controlled chaos. Soldiers were sparring with partners who existed in different dimensions. Engineers were building weapons that worked by violating fundamental laws of physics. "Lisa," Jake found her after his council meeting, "how many humans are we looking at for full Guardian enhancement?" "About 2 billion people have volunteered for advanced modification. They understand that Guardian enhancement makes you stronger and faster, but it also means you can never live on a normal world again." "Why not?" "The enhanced senses that let you fight impossible entities also mean you can perceive all the threats that normal people can't see. Guardian veterans report that peaceful worlds feel empty and fragile to them." Jake understood. Once you became capable of seeing reality-threatening entities, you couldn't unsee them. Once you developed the ability to fight impossible battles, normal life seemed almost fake. Dr. White was now commanding the Ocean Defense Network. The underwater structures had revealed themselves to be part of a global system that maintained Earth's reality anchor points. "Admiral, we've mapped the complete network. Earth has over 3,000 reality anchor points built into its geological structure. They've been there for millions of years, maintaining stable existence in this region of space. What happens if they fail?" Jake asked. "If even one fails, this entire region of space becomes vulnerable to invasion by entities from outside reality. If they all fail, this section of the universe simply stops existing. The weight of responsibility was enormous. Earth wasn't just defending itself or even the galaxy. It was defending the very concept of existence in this region of reality. 6 months later, the Silence Makers arrived. They came not as visible entities but as gaps in consciousness itself. People would start to think about something and then forget not just the thought, but the ability to have thoughts about that subject. General Hayes was coordinating the global defense when she realized she couldn't remember what she was defending against. The enemy was erasing the ability to think about the enemy, but Earth's enhanced humans had been prepared for this. Their Deathworld-forged minds could hold contradictory thoughts simultaneously. They could think about things that consumed thought. Remember things that destroyed memory. The battle against the Silence Makers lasted 3 weeks. It was fought entirely in the realm of consciousness, with human guardians using their enhanced imagination to create thoughts so vivid and strong that even entities that consumed thinking couldn't destroy them. The victory came when 10-year-old Amy Shun, enhanced like all humans born after the nanomachine release, created a simple idea that the Silence Makers couldn't unmake. I think, therefore I am. The concept was so basic, so fundamentally human, that it became a beacon other humans could follow. One by one, enhanced humans worldwide began repeating Amy's simple statement. The Silence Makers found themselves unable to consume an idea that defined the very nature of conscious existence. 2 years after the first alien contact, Dr. Grant stood in her new laboratory on Earth Defense Station. She was no longer just studying alien biology, she was creating it. The Guardian Enhancement Program now accepted volunteers from peaceful worlds throughout the Gal.